Guys, this is Gabby with Go Hyphae. Today I'm just going to be testing the cleanliness, sterility of a couple of liquid cultures. I have blue oyster. This one's been growing for about 11 days and pretty happy with that growth there. And then I have a pink oyster, and this one has only been growing for 6 days, but it's got a lot of growth so far. And I figure I might as well go ahead and test it. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray down my workspace, get all my things into my workspace, and then transfer about just a drop or two onto a couple of petri dishes. Pink oyster and my blue oyster, and try not to get those confused. Okay, so I'm going to label my plates and then leave them to sit at room temperature for a few days, see what grows. Identify bacteria versus mycelium, and from there I can feel a little more secure that my cultures are clean. And that's it. So now it's 8 days later. Today's the 24th of November, so as you can see on the first plate, our pink oyster looks clean. I don't see any contamination. I just see some mycelium there, pretty good growth. So I feel good about that. And then the blue oyster plate, however, I do see contamination. This looks like what might possibly be yeast. And then my mycelium didn't really grow. I suppose it was outcompeted by the bacteria. So I went again, and last night I put both of those cultures on plates again. And normally when I do this, I will use 2 plates, but I was trying to save on petri dishes this time, so I put it on 1 plate, but I like to have 2 samples, so went back and did it again. And so already last night I've had a little bit of growth on the pink oyster plate. So far, no contamination. I would like to keep this growing a little bit longer, however, just to be sure that no contaminants grow, but I do feel pretty secure about my pink oyster. And then for the blue oyster, we also have, it's a little hard to see, there's some condensation on the plate right now, but I can see a little bit of mycelial growth. As of now, I don't see any contamination, but once again, we will let it grow for a few more days just to see if anything comes up from that. Okay, so at this point, I think we can look into process improvement, figure out why our blue oyster got contaminated, figure out if it's within the liquid culture or if it was somewhere in the process of inoculating this plate. I mean, when I look at my blue oyster culture, I don't see any visible contamination. However, that doesn't mean that there isn't contamination in here. Something I do want to look back at is the silicone that I did use to put around the filter ports and my self-healing injection port. I'm not sure this is the best type of silicone to use, so I might go back and try a different type of adhesive for those in case contamination is seeping through. Also, another thing I want to look at is my flow hood. So I'm currently using a flow hood that's different from the flow hood I had previously, that I felt really confident in, and I seem to be having some contamination with the current flow hood I'm using, which was just a purchase off of Amazon and I wasn't even sure about to begin with. So just kind of gonna go through the process and figure out where there is a hole in things, creating a door for contamination. So since the last recording, I went back and I looked at my plates again because I didn't quite believe that my blue oyster culture had been contaminated, just because I had followed the same procedures I always follow. I felt pretty good about it being sterile. So this is that plate that ended up being contaminated. I went back and revised my processes a little bit and I changed two things. So the first thing being that when I had made this plate, at that time I was using 90% isopropyl alcohol, and then I made the switch to 70% isopropyl alcohol. The reason being, so I did a little research, and the CDC did research on disinfecting methods, and they said that the use of more concentrated solutions, such as 99% isopropyl, will result in almost immediate coagulation of surface or cell wall proteins and prevent the passage of alcohol into the cell, thereby not truly killing the pathogens that you want it to kill. That 70% isopropyl is able to be more effective towards killing. So then I did two other test plates, both using 70% isopropyl alcohol. They both turned out clean. I didn't have any contamination in either of these plates. So I do still believe that my blue oyster culture is clean. And then, so as I mentioned, I changed two things. So the second thing that I changed was the positioning of my flow hood. So I previously had my flow hood on the side. So I was working with it here and I was working to the side of it here. So through that, I felt like possible contaminants could have been blowing off of my arm onto my plates, or anything that was on me, my clothes, my arm, my hands. And now that I'm working in this orientation, I feel that there's less of a chance of that happening, as anything that's falling down will be blowing away from the plates instead of right on the plates. So those are the two things that I changed, and then I was able to get clean results with that. So my blue oyster culture, I do feel like, is clean, and these are my results. And I just wanted to show that always good to play around with, and probably in the future I will make a video on showing the difference, or experimenting on the difference between 70% and like 99% isopropyl alcohol. So thanks for watching.